All right, when we see it, you see it. Breaking news on 24/7, as promised, as always. Two new developments and two lawsuits against the Trump administration. So first, let's break this down. Birthright citizenship. A second judge now calls that executive order regarding birthright citizenship unconstitutional. Second, another judge has blocked a Trump plan offering incentives for federal workers to resign. So a lot to break down here. Legal analyst and trial attorney Robin Nunn joins us live. So Robin, let's first start with the federal workers' resignation portion, because today is that important deadline. So what now happens to those federal workers who woke up this morning and said, hey, I have a deadline today to make a decision?
Yeah, it seems as if the judges actually blocked the government's efforts to make a decision and this deadline for today and has asked for more time to consider their issue more. So hopefully federal workers will get some sort of communication from the government letting them know that the deadline has been extended.
Okay, so now let's go back to the birthright citizenship conversation, because we know days ago that Seattle judge really put a foot in the door and said, no, this is unconstitutional. Now we have word of a second judge sort of affirming that. So is this just dead on arrival for executive orders for Trump where birthright citizenship is concerned?
I don't think so. I think this is going to be a bit of a longer process. I think the Trump administration has committed to appealing any of the decisions that come down this week, and has said that they're unsurprised that these particular judges have decided in this way. I think this is going to be a longer fight, and I think there's going to be a real constitutional question here as to whether birthright citizenship should be read to include people that are born here or not born here, or parents that are born here or not born here. I think this is going to be a much longer fight.
All right, so U.S. District Judge George O'Toole Jr. in Boston didn't express an opinion on the legality of that program. He scheduled a hearing for Monday at 2 p.m., we understand. He also directed administration officials to extend the deadline to apply for that program until after the hearing. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, sort of similarly. I think that a lot of the judiciary that is considering these issues wants more time to reflect, more time to research, to hear the arguments. I think there is an overwhelming amount of flurry of arguments on these recent executive orders, including this one. And I think that we'll probably hear more next week.
Okay, so let's put that aside and let's talk about this other piece of litigation, the lawsuit by the FBI to prevent the names of those working on those January 6th inquiries from being released. A lot of FBI agents saying, if you release our names, you're compromising us to the entire crime community, compromising the safety of our families even. Where is that lawsuit today?
Yeah, they're seeking a temporary restraining order. They are worried about their privacy. They're worried about their security. The plaintiffs in that particular case are FBI agents who said that their safety is at risk if their identities are known. They not only worked on the January 6th sort of issues, but they've worked on broader issues involving murders and narcotics and
Right.
serious felony issues. So I think that there's a broader constitutional issue in terms of they were doing what they were asked to do in the capacity of their roles, and whether or not their identities can be disclosed now.
So, on the other side of things, the Department of Justice is now suing the city of Chicago over their sanctuary city laws. We just heard ICE of Denver talk about the difficulty of doing what they want to do in a so-called sanctuary city. Relative to that city, what's the argument here?
Yeah, the immigration battle is ongoing. I think this is probably a predicted step. There's been a lot of discussion about sanctuary cities, especially Chicago. There's been a ton of emphasis around these ICE crackdowns. Sanctuary cities have committed to not participate, to not use local law enforcement, to get involved with the federal efforts. And now the DOJ, I think, is really pushing back and calling their bluff as whether they will continue to receive federal funding if they will not participate in federal programs such as immigration crackdowns and things like this.
Do you see how New York did participate, and sort of a shock by a lot of people in the country that Mayor Eric Adams granted some participation? Do you think that weakens the case of Chicago?
I don't. I think that this basically boils down to that there are some cities that obviously have chosen with their electorate to not participate, and some that have. And the mayor of Chicago seems very committed to not changing the Chicago away from being a sanctuary city, much like, obviously the mayor of New York has decided to move in a different direction. The question is whether federal funding can be attached to cities that decide not to participate in these immigration crackdowns that are going on right now.
Following the laws, the legalese, and the money. Robin, thank you so much. It's nice to talk to you on CBS News 24/7.